Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Berachos Daf Lamed Hey and the Ozo Header print. I want to talk about two main ha'aras today, just very briefly. So the Gemara says that there's a mitzvah to try to see the Malchei Umas Olam, because that will Shetavu Malchus Beis David, when Mashiach comes, Yehi Yodea Lahafresh Ben Malchus to Malchus. So you'll know the difference between them. And if you are familiar, if that sounds familiar to you, it's either because you learned it or because you remember the Gemara in Berachos, the Bavli, on Daf Nun Ches and Aleph, which basically says the same thing. One could be medayik differences in the exact gears of what it is, but that's not what I want to do today. So there's this inyan that you see that you're supposed to try to make sure to see the king. And this statement was said by Rebbe, here it is, the relative of, here it is, when king, his name is Duklitianus, came to Eretz Yisrael. So Rav Chia bar Abba, the famous Rav Chia, was seen stepping over the graves, which is the context of the Gemara, to go see it. So I've often thought that maybe this is the same shot in the Gemara that we had on Daf Chavav, where the famous Gemara that Amar Rav Chia Rabba, he says, I tried to concentrate during davening, but I couldn't, and I started to think, Man Ayel Kumi Malka Kadmai, who goes first? Is it the Al Kaltafia or the Reish Kalusa? So whatever the pshatim there are, which we talked about, very interesting pshatim about whether it really means they couldn't concentrate, but I always thought that maybe perhaps the pshat was that it was him l'shitaso. He held that there's a mitzvah to make sure that you see the king, and so he was saying, do you give honor to the person that's ranking higher, or because it's a mitzvah to go see the king, perhaps whoever has the opportunity should just run forward? Maybe that's what he was thinking about. It could have been a Torah concept, according to especially those Mefarshim that say that it was. There's another thing that I want to talk about, which I've heard from a few people, and this is very interesting. So the Gemara says, it's talking about whether a person's allowed to be Mitamei Lameis when a chashuv person dies. We talked about this concept that obviously is not halacha l'maisa, especially for a kohen. So the Gemara says that when Rav Norai, the brother of Rav Yehuda Nasiya, died, so Rav Chanina sent a message to Rav Mana, who was a kohen, that he should participate in the funeral, the lo salik, but Rav Mana did not come. So he had to explain why not. Why didn't he come? Because the Yerushalmi is saying that a kohen could be Mitamei. So he said, if during his lifetime I never was Mitamei, or I wasn't allowed to be Mitamei myself for him, which seems to me in this context that I never went to outside of Eretz Yisrael to meet him, therefore Misasan surely not. So if we think about it, we're about to have a contradictory statement in the Gemara, which I want to talk about that as well. But this pshat is saying, think about it, that the Talmud Chacham, in his lifetime, I need to give him that honor and respect and learn from him. And now that he's passed away, now I'm giving him respect. It's too late. I missed that opportunity. And if you take a look, the Gemara says the exact opposite, that Rav Nasa said back, no, b'misasan asu osan kemeis mitzvah. The Nesiim were given the status of a meis mitzvah. What's the pshat? We've talked about this many times. There's a concept that when someone passes away, it's an opportunity to learn from them and to take their milos. So even though, yes, he lost out on the opportunity in the lifetime, perhaps he wasn't Mitamei to them, but even at someone's passing, it's a tremendous opportunity for inspiration. And we know that it's a time of danger when somebody is inspired, and somebody could have this opportunity to take it. For example, we find that the Mishnah says it was a nes that the Kohen Gadol never became Tamei on Yom Kippur, on the night of Yom Kippur, that he wasn't raw carry. Now, the Tosas Yontif on that Mishnah and Yuma, how's that a nes? He had a second wife who was a backup. He didn't eat the foods that would cause these things. He stayed up all night learning, and they would snap in his face if he fell asleep. So what's the miracle? But he says the Satan is Makatrig, which has Sakana, that at a time of inspiration, the Satan is Makatrig. So it could be that at this time of death, it's important that a person could take this inspiration and use it properly. I myself have found that I've gone to Levias of many great people, and I see that there's a certain feeling in the air where sometimes you really get inspired and you take it. It's famous that at Rav Aaron Cutler's Levaya, this was said, I believe, in the name of his father-in-law, Rav Zalman Meltzer, that when a tzaddik dies, there's a meis mitzvah in the element of all of his kochos are now hefker for whoever wants to grab them. My Rebbe Rav Usher Zelig Rubenstein Zatzal used to always tell us this whenever someone passed away, that those qualities are up for grabs. The last thing I want to talk about is the Gemara has a very interesting shaila. I know I said two. I meant two related to the Misa as well. And that is that they asked the shaila, am I allowed to go to Eretz Amim and be Mitamei to pick up my mother and father, who were traveling, I guess, to Eretz Yisrael? So the first answer the Gemara said was, if it's a sakana, of course you're allowed to, because you're allowed to help them if you need to protect them. But if it's not, it's just honor, then Odhi Tzricha, Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak says, I don't know the answer. So the Gemara says that they pushed Rav Yochanan. They said, we need an answer. We need a straight answer. So apparently Rav Yochanan had this clarity. So, and he was like one of the Gedolei Hadar. So Rav Yochanan answered, Im Gamart Latseis Tavo B'Shalom. Then you should go, if you already decided to go, then you should go in peace. So that seems like he's not really answering, right? But no, the Gemara says, Shalom Rav Elazar v'Amar in Rishus Gedol Mizu. That's the greatest permission. So wait, but it sounds like he was hesitating. So what does that mean? So the answer is that if a tzaddik gives a bracha, then that's it. That automatically is the greatest thing. My Rebbe Rav Usher Zelig Rubenstein Zatzal, he used to say that Rechatzkel Levenstein was his Rebbe. Rechatzkel carried the Mir Yeshiva throughout Europe, and then eventually came to America after the war, after Shanghai, and then, long story, but when Babe Ruth died, and he saw people were in mourning, he just said, I can't be in America any longer, and he went back to Eretz Yisrael. He had been actually a mashgiach and a Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael before the war. Long story, but look it up. You'll see he was in the Lumza Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. He had tried to be there, but this was his final goal, that he wanted to be there, and he finally went to Eretz Yisrael, and he became the mashgiach of Panovich Yeshiva. So he left the Mir cycle, so to speak. Anyway, not for now, but interesting historical stuff about him. But my Rebbe Usher, he came to Panovich in 1956, I believe it was, and he said that when Rechatzkel would give advice, he would always tell people, that's just my opinion, but if you don't do it, you should be blessed as well. So he asked some of the Alter Brachim, people that knew him from Europe, what's pshat? Why does he talk that way? So they said, he talks that way because he used to give advice to people, and Rahman al-Islam, people that didn't follow his advice, terrible things happened to them. They would die, or horrific calamities would happen. So when he found out and he saw that's what was going on, he became very careful how he spoke, and he would give you a bracha that if you don't follow him, you should also be safe. So when a tzaddik says, and Gamar Latseis Tavo B'Shalom, if you could give a bracha, then that's it. That's all you need. That is the psak halacha. That's the answer, but it's mutter to go. And that's what you see remes this in this Gemara. Thank you for joining, and I hope that helped inspire you. Have a great day.